Tonight's species is powerful, exciting, and most of all, impressive. Everyone knows that this fish is my favorite inshore species, and we can all agree that everyone remembers catching their first tarpon. Tonight, it's all about the Silver King here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Okay, Florida, we know you're ready more than ever to get out on the water and catch some fish. So thanks for joining us back on another week of the Florida Insider Fishing Report. And you know, not only are we celebrating all of the mamas this weekend, but Rick, we're talking about your favorite fish to catch, tarpon.
We are talking about tarpon, you know, Brie, and we're going to spend some time at the Workbench. But, you know, speaking of mamas, I found out today that Martha Stewart and I have something in common.
What is that? What could it be?
We're both sponsored by Kubota, so I think me and Martha should have a Kubota race challenge. So hook me up, Martha.
You heard her. He challenged you.
I'm challenged.
All right.
That'd be so cool to race our Kubotas.
Oh my gosh, it would be the best.
It would be fun.
All right, we can't forget about our other resident tarpon expert over there at the CCA Workbench, Dave Farrell. What's going on?
You're lying to the people.
I know.
You're lying to the people already.
know.
I know a lot about some fishes, but tarpon, he ain't my man. That's Murphy's man. So we're gonna let Murphy come over here and steal my money today.
Well,
he's still giving it to me, but you know.
You're going to ask great questions.
I'm going to ask great questions.
Yes, you are. You always do. All right, people, it's tarpon
It's a
time.
question connoisseur.
Yes, it's tarpon time, so let's get our first captain on the line from the Casa Vieja Southeast region. Jimbo, get us started.
Hey, Bree. Hey, Rick and Dave. And yes, I do remember the first tarpon I caught. Well, you know, here in the Southeast region, we've got resident tarpon that can be found year-round. And then in February through June, there's a push of migrating fish. Now, all of the inlets and their adjoining beaches, those are tarpon hotspots, as well as the deeper holes and the lit bridges of the Intercoastal Waterway. And then their feeding patterns, they do change with the seasons. And right now, a silver dollar size live crab, that's the bait of choice. But then in the winter months when the shrimp are running, a live shrimp's going to be the best bait. Now, other popular baits are live pinfish, live mullet, topwater and surface swimming lures, jigs, soft plastics, and flies. Normal tackle, 10 to 20 pound test. You want to use a 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader and a 6.0 to 8.0 trocar circle hook, especially when you're using live bait. And then if you're fishing in the inlets and around the bridges, the best tarpon fish is going to be in the early morning and then in the late afternoons into the evenings. In the inlets, look for color changes or tide lines or rolling fish and marks on your depth machine. Then you want to drift your live baits through that area. And in the inlets, any tide can be good as long as the water is moving. And then if you're fishing around the bridges, the fish will usually be feeding along the shadow lines on the outgoing tide. And this is also the time of the year that schools of migrating tarpon can be found on the oceanside flats from Government Cut south to Angelfish Creek. And those migrating tarpon, they can be baited with live crabs or with fly tackle using crab pattern flies. Now, the average size tarpon in the Southeast region is in the 40 to 80 pound range, but fish in the 100 pound range are not uncommon or even larger. Now, with this nice weather that we've been experiencing, the bonefish and permit fishing has been very good. Now, the bonefish, they've been active on the inside and outside flats, and the permit have been mostly on the outside flats. You want to look for these bonefish and permit from Soldiers Key south to Angelfish Creek. The best bites have been early in the morning before the water gets too hot, and then late in the afternoon. And then late in the afternoon, those bonefish, they've been coming up on top of the flats and tailing on the lower stages of the tide. And then the permit, they've been cruising the hard bottom oceanside flats. And on the higher stages of the tide, those permit have been on the top of the flats. And as the water falls, they've been along the deeper edges and channels. Now, the best bait for both has been a quarter-size live crab or crab pattern flies. Now, moving offshore, the fishing for blackfin tunas has been getting better by the day. Now, these tunas have been hitting live herrings, pilchards, and sardines. You can fish them under the kite or flatline them. Best depths have been anywhere from 120 to 200 feet of water. And most of these blackfins have been in the 20 to 30 pound range. We've been using 20 pound tackle using a 30 or even 40-pound fluorocarbon leader, but 30 will get you by just fine, and a 5/0 to 6/0 circle hook. Now, these tunas, they've been biting throughout the day, but first thing in the morning and then late in the afternoon just before it gets dark, or if you got overcast conditions, that's when they're going to bite the best. And if you can find enough bait to live chum with, shouldn't be any problem getting a bunch of these nice tunas. Now, I got a photo here. Now, this photo is a couple nice blackfins that we caught a couple days ago aboard the Thomas Flyer, and we're still eating sushi.
Nice.
I think 3 days now we've been eating sushi.
All
And
right.
they taste very good, just like the yellowfins. Now, along with those tunas, there's been some steady action with sailfish. And if you can find North Curtain blue water, that's where that best sailfish is going to be. These sails are being caught on live herrings, goggle eyes, and pilchards and sardines. You can flatline them or fish them under the kite, anywhere from 100 to 300 feet of water, almost in the same range as we've been catching these tunas. And on the calm days like we've had the last couple of days, keep an eye out for any free jumping sails. You can get lined up with them, get a bait out in front of them. More often than not, you'll get a bite out of them. And the live chumming late in the afternoon works great on those sailfish too.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. Great report from the Casa Vieja Southeast region. It's time for the R&R tackle spot, hot spots. Jimbo says inshore, look for the nighttime tarpon and snook in the inlets and around the lit bridges using both live and artificial baits, and then fish the edges of the Gulf Stream late in the afternoon with live baits in 100 to 200 foot range for a mixed bag of blackfin tunas, sailfish, and kingfish.
That underwater sailfish shot was beautiful.
Isn't
It was like
it?
mermaid hair,
Yeah,
but it was
man.
so fluid and gorgeous. Anyways, another region who's ready for tarpon time is the Central West Startron region, powered by Captain Jeff Page. Jeff, you're wearing your power pole outfit tonight.
And I've got my Florida flavored tarpon hat on too.
I love
Yes,
it.
you do. All right, Paige,
Hey,
what you got?
So you know what? We in the Startron Central West region, we are known for tarpon fishing, and you know what? It all starts in Boca Grande Pass. I know you guys were just down there, and tell you what, a lot of the tarpon down there are starting to show up in the pass, as well as along the beaches, from say Redfish Pass all the way up past Stump Pass. You know, and in the pass, the guys, there can be up to 70, 80 boats there in the day and at night. It never seems to shut down. They just run shifts in there. Another good way to catch them, like I said, is up and down the beaches. That gets going right now in May, right through June and July. Look for good groups of fish up and down the beach early in the morning, especially when we have east winds, which we've had the last few mornings. You're going to see fish in as close as 100 yards off the beach, barely moving or slow rolling. Sneak up on them with your trolling motor. You can throw a free line crab, threadfin, or even a pinfish under a cork like you like to do, Rick. And then also purple and black flies work real well, especially to the fish that are laid up on the sandbars near all our inlets, like one particular sandbar right there at Anna Maria by Bean Point. I saw two guys hooked up yesterday on tarpon on fly. Now we've got the full moon this week, which means there's going to be a big, strong outgoing tide where the crabs flush out the bigger passes. Egmont Pass and Boca Grande Pass are going to go off really good. The cool thing is, Rick, you can bring your own crabs, or you can bring a couple dip nets and work the weed lines in the pass, dip you a half dozen or dozen crabs, and then get in the flotilla and just free line crabs right along with the other boats. There's no anchoring necessary, and you're going to hook up on tarpon. Now, when we get into later summer and into fall, look for the fish pushing up into our bays and estuaries, like in the Peace River, Mayaca River, Manatee River. All in all, tarpon fishing's really excellent, and this looks to be a stellar year. Got a couple tarpon pictures tonight, one of a real nice one alongside my 25 Pathfinder, and then of another one with Captain Brock Horner, who also runs a 25 Pathfinder down in Boca Grande. He had to get in the water with his, but I thought it was a cool shot.
That's
Very
a great
pretty.
shot. All right, tell us about snook, bub.
Snook fishing, you know what? Not only will the tarpon fishing be good this week on this full moon, but look for the snook fishing to fire off, especially in all the inlets and passes, in any structure around the inlets or passes, that be rocks, down trees, even docks. And a good idea is to bring a live well full of live pilchards and it's not a bad idea to have some big pinfish and grunts for the bigger fish. Even a big threadfin will get the job done. Now, if you're into throwing lures up in the bays around Terracea Bay, McGill Bay, and Joe Bay in the early morning, find the schools of mullet around the oyster bars and mangrove shorelines, and you're going to have a good shot at throwing surface plugs, walk the dog style plugs, and you're going to be able to key in on one, a good size snook, 30 inches or better. The key, Rick, has been avoiding the floating grass. A lot of the grass has been breaking loose from the bottom. There also been good nighttime snook fishing around New Pass Bridge and Longboat Pass Bridge, and then of course down El Jobin in Charlotte Harbor. Live ladyfish or silver mullet, best bet. Got a snook photo tonight of a happy client of Captain Griffin Deans of Slot Machine Charters out of Bradenton. Rolling offshore, red bite remains strong. He's still the only grouper you can take home right now. Fish are in as close as 90 feet, but the guys are doing better in 130 to 150 feet of water over areas of hard bottom and structure. With that bottom machine again, Rick, showing good bait stacks, you're going to catch you some big fire trucks. It's not a bad idea to have frozen sardines and some live pinfish and grunts and even some blue runners. And don't be surprised while you're red grouper fishing if you don't hit a couple blackfin tuna on a flatline or even a cobia. We got a red grouper photo tonight of Captain Tyler of Chase and Tail Charters out of Siesta Key, Florida, with two big fire trucks he got the other day.
Nice.
Last species tonight, cobia. You know, I just mentioned him in the red grouper story. Don't be surprised if you catch him while you're grouper fishing. Well, cobias are really showing up, and I think they're on their way up to the Panhandle because they're showing up in as close as 30, 40 feet of water over wrecks, reefs, and hard bottom areas. And the cool thing about it, you can have a live bait to throw at them, but you can also throw a big bucktail jig, say ounce and a half, so you can cast it a long way. And then I also got reports just today of a lot of cobia were caught at the Skyway Fishing Pier. And that's my report this week from the Startron Central West region.
You did good, Captain Page. I like your setup behind you, looking good. Keep up the good work.
You
I
guys
appreciate
are looking real good. Y'all are looking good in those real legends.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. It's time for us to go and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. Captain Page says that inshore, tarpon are eating thread fins at the Skyway Bridge. The best bite is at the switch of the tide, and then you try 40-pound diamond leader with a 7.0 Eagle Claw circle hook, and then offshore, permit. A good bite over the reefs in 7 to 11 miles off of Stump Pass north to Venice. Live crabs are going to be your best bait for those guys.
All right, Rick. Well, speaking of daiquiri deck, during these uncertain times, they are following the governor's order and CDC regulations, and we are happy to announce they are opening back up for business.
All right.
All 5 daiquiri deck locations have great seating available for proper social distancing with plenty of open air decks, patios, sidewalks, cafes, and rooftops. So it's time to relax in the sun and fresh air with a daiquiri and incredible seafood while enjoying the amazing Daiquiri Deck team. Happy hour is daily from 3 to 7 p.m., which includes half-price daiquiris. So head on over. Your deck diesel is waiting. That sounds wonderful to me.
Come on, let's go. Let's just forget this.
Let's just go. We're
Right
driving
on
away.
All right.
All right, coming up next, we're bowing to the Fishbites East region. But first, Dave Farrell has a bit of bowing to do himself over at the CCA Workbench for Academy Sports Rigs and Techniques.
It's stupid mullet tricks. We need a drum roll.
Hey.
Through the hoop.
Good
Through
job,
the hoop.
Dave. I don't even know what that
Through the
was.
hoop.
It's a
Through the
mullet
hoop.
circus. We'll be back.
Nice.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats, always in the game. Noble Air Charters, raising the bar yet again. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Sirius XM Marine, weather, fishing info, and channel surfing. And Daiquiri Deck, Sarasota's favorite place to meet.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
Why is Casa Vieja Lodge on everyone's bucket list?
Left teaser. Left flat as well. 2 fish. They're everywhere. Right flat teaser as well. Left flat, right flat teaser.
Come to Casa Vieja Lodge and check it off your list.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench, and tonight we're talking about tarpon here for the Academy Sports and Outdoors.
You're talking a lot about tarpon, I hope.
So what kind of questions you got, Dave?
Well, when we're trying to do this tarpon fishing, I know that it always starts here in the springtime, and then it progresses all through the summer. How do you know when to go from one bait to the next, and do you have to move from one bait? Because I imagine all this stuff's coming and changing through that long 4 or 5 month period or 6 month period. How do you go about knowing when and where to fish certain things?
So there's a certain amount of time of the year, the colder months, when the fish are really keyed in on shrimp. However, this is the time of year when they're not. So when you have that transition in March, April, and May, you have a spring mullet migration, both on the East Coast and on the Gulf Coast.
Right.
And the same thing happens also in the fall. So what you want to try to do in tarpon fishing is to match the hatch. You want to match what they're eating, because you don't want to try to fish with a shrimp this big for a giant fish.
And it changes all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So the primary thing in April, May, and probably through the second week of May is mullet. And so you get some guys use big silver mullet. I like, when I'm fishing the bridges down in the Keys, I like using a big mullet. The bigger the mullet, the bigger the tarpon.
Yeah. Like a pounder even? Or
oh, yeah.
A pound?
Yeah. Some of the ones that you'd say, oh, we're never going to use that for bait. But that guy creates a lot of vibration, and that particular fish will actually eliminate a 70 or an 80 pounder from biting. So
when you look at the mouth of a tarpon, it's a bucket. So imagine they can get just about anything in there.
Absolutely.
The hard part's getting a hook in that hard bucket.
That's correct. So, but primarily what ends up happening, Dave, is guys are going to switch over, specifically over on the West Coast. They're going to start fishing the crabs. And the reason why they like crabs around the bridges is because all the passes have a tendency to have a lot of blue crabs, or in Boca Grande, they call them pass crabs. It's a different type of crab than a blue crab. But the key is the rig. And the rig that we like is, I'm going to use this Ricky Red heavy action rod loaded up with diamond 40-pound braid.
Right.
But we call this a slip sinker rig. And basically how it works, Dave, is that we have these 2 beads on this sinker, this R&R tackle cork, I'm sorry.
Right.
And what ends up happening is we would put a little lead or big split shot right underneath the knot. So I've got 60-pound diamond presentation. I might, if the water's clear, have to go all the way down to 40-pound.
Right.
But you can't cast 20 or 25 feet a leader. So what we do
That's the problem when you have a big cork and a long leader under it.
But then when you're fishing a short bait, like a short leader, then your bait is not at the depth that the tarpon are at.
Can't get down to them.
So
this makes the
I'm going to let you hold on to that cork.
Right.
I'm going to open the bail here and watch what happens. If we cast, we have the ability to cast, but then when you come down to
your secondary leader here is what you have.
Exactly, and it slides down to the cork, and then the knot, because of the bead, stops right there. Boom.
Bang.
So now I've got 25 feet a leader fishing in 30 feet of water, or I can adjust it by reeling up a little bit. But the cool part is that now the crab or the pinfish, this is the same rig I use for a pinfish, swims in the current, and we allow it to free line all through the fish. That's the beauty of this. We can adjust our height of our crab or our pinfish by simply just reeling up a little bit of the line.
Yeah, so like if you're wanting to fish in 40 feet of water, you tie on to your knot right here to your braid, and then you tie on like 20 feet or 30 feet, and then you put your bead on, and then you put your float on,
right,
and then you put another bead on, and then you put the leader to the hook.
Exactly.
And so that way you've got, just like a kite line, it'll go through.
Exactly,
Yeah.
same principle as a kite. Now, here's one of the things that I really like. So you can use a trocar, you can use a laser sharp circle hook. I like to match the size hook with the size bait.
Yeah.
So with a crab, you're gonna use a 5.0 to a 7.0, depending on which one, whether you use a Primal C or a Circle C or an APC trocar, it doesn't really seem to matter.
Yeah, the sizes are a little
On a
confusing
crab,
sometimes.
you're going to hook him in the side. We've done this before plenty of times here. We're going to just hook him in the side, and we're going to throw him out. The beauty of this rig is we can reel the cork up to the tip of the rod, and from the tip of the rod to the hook itself, I only have about 5.5 feet of leader, so I can still get a good toss. You know. Now, if we're going to use that mullet, if I'm using one of those big mullet that we're talking about, I might eliminate the cork. But the key is that if you go in the mullet's mouth, you can't go through the bottom part of his jaw like so. If you were to go where you pin his bottom jaw and his top jaw, he can't open his lower jaw and breathe. So I'd like to open his mouth, especially a live one. You can slide in there into his mouth. And now what happens is his lower jaw will open and close so that he can breathe. The mullet will last a lot longer.
Yeah.
If we're gonna have a big 1 pound mullet,
right,
I'm gonna go up to a 9.0, hook him exactly the same way.
Just through his upper lip.
Through his upper lip, but we actually go back a little bit behind the eyes, because that's where the part of his head gets soft. If you try to go in the front, besides the lips, then you hit these real hard spots in the roof of his mouth.
Obviously, you don't want to brain him either. Because,
no.
Yeah, because he'll stiffen out on you.
Oh, yeah. But in either case, when you get the bite, I like, in this particular case with a mullet, I like to let them have it a little bit. Let them get it down in their mouth. Remember, anytime fishing a circle hook, pinfish, crab, whatever, you want to just reel.
Right.
You don't want to yank down and set the hook.
I tell you what, it works that way with even J hooks. You know, if you just reel and let it come tight without a big sweeping of the rod tip, it seems like you get a lot better hook sets that way. And not only that, if you miss them, they come back a lot quicker.
And remember this, guys, this is really important. A pinfish, a crab, even the horn on a shrimp, tarpon are used to eating things that actually will pinch them, or they get a poke. So if you just slightly reel, as this starts to poke them in their lip or in their roof of their mouth, the corner of their mouth, they have a tendency to bite harder. If you yank, they feel this across their lips, and then there's this explosion on the tip of their lips, and they'll spit it more often than not. But circle hooks have definitely changed the amount of fish that you catch.
Went from how many did you jump today to how many did you actually catch?
It's 3 out of 4 you catch if you do it right. Right, Brie?
So quiet over there. I'm like, goodness.
I'm just listening.
You're just listening and learning. Me too.
That's right.
All right. Well, epicness is on the horizon in the Fishbites East region, and Captain Mike Holliday is going to tell us all about that warm spring tarpon migration movement right now. Talk to us, Mike.
Yeah, Brie, the weather really has an impact on the tarpon fishing. June is typically the tarpon month in my region, but this warm spring has kind of ramped it up a little bit. So we're already starting to see the migrating fish pushing up the coast from the Keys. Typically in May, a lot of our tarpon are resident fish or, a few early arrivals, but we're seeing those fish on the beach right now. It's kind of nice. The resident fish are also here around the inlets and in places like Big and Little Mud Creeks and up in the Loxahatchee and in the St. Lucie rivers. And if you're going to fish inshore or around the inlets, those fish are really focused on mullet. Rick just talked about that. The spring run of silver mullet is in full swing right now. Big schools everywhere. You can cast net a handful of those 8 to 10 inch baits, put them out behind the boat on 30-pound tackle, a 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, and 7.0 trocar circle hook. For the fish on the beach, I really like a live crab. because the crowd can't get out of their way like some of the other baits can. But you can also use a mullet, a thread fin, early in the morning, a dark colored fly, in the middle of the day, a bright colored fly. Around the inlets, you can drift or slow your baits, or slow troll your baits, just using your trolling motor. Average tarpon in our region is going to be 20 to 80 pounds. I got a photo. That's Fred Heine with a fish. He was fishing with Capt. Chris Britton. He released that tarpon in the crossroads area of the Indian River, and that fish ate a dead mullet on the bottom, which is how they used to fish them a long time ago, just put a dead bait on the bottom. The other thing we got going with this building moon, look for those extreme low tides. Those are going to concentrate the snook in the potholes on the flats and also along the edges of the channels and along the edges of the sandbars where you get to the deeper cuts. The mullet are thick in the river, so this is a great time to work a topwater plug along the shorelines and along the seawalls in places like Jonathan Landing. The shorelines of that are along the intercoastal north and south of Hope Sound Bridge, and the docks along the western bank of the Indian River from Walton Road to Midway Road. You know, it's a little too early for those spawning fish to push into the inlets, but there are a lot of those smaller males moving into the inlets and also out to the beaches within a couple hundred yards of the inlets, both north and south. If you're after a trophy snook for a picture right now, a live mullet or an R&R flare hawk jig fished up in Taylor Creek in Fort Pierce or around the spillways in Palm Beach County when they're running, that's where those big fish are going to come from. Average snook in my region is 5 to 15 pounds with 5 to 25 pounds being caught. And while, you know, we're talking about snook and tarpon, those are two of the eligible species for the CCA Florida Star Tournament. That starts July 1st, runs through October 4th. That's a 100-day tournament, offers over $500,000 in prizes. There's 17 species, many of which are, you know, catch, photo, and release. For more information, you can go to ccaflstar.com. And it's just a great, great tournament that doesn't have as many people in it as you think, so you really have a good chance of winning.
That's right. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Well, May is the kingfish month in Palm Beach County, and schools of fish are working the roll down in the reef in Jupiter. That's in 90 to 120 feet of water, as well as off that same depth off the Juneau Pier and also around the mouth of Boynton Inlet. The kingfish are really sensitive to light, so with this building moon, expect it to be an afternoon or evening bite all the way through the full moon and up to about 5 days after the full moon. And then on the days we get these westerly winds, or you get a lot of current, if you get like 5 knots of current offshore, the big fish are going to charge the beach. You can find them on the beach in places like the Kingfish Hole off Hope Sound or up in the Vero Cove and Vero Beach. The majority of the kings we're going to find, excuse me, are schoolies in that 12 to 20 pound range, and you can target those with live Spanish sardines or rigged ribbon fish, or you can even just troll lip plugs or spoons and do pretty well. For the smokers, a big blue runner or goggle eye on a number 4 wire stinger rig is money out deep. If they're in on the beach, you can swap those baits out for a mullet or a 1 pound bluefish. But, you know, those big fish are going to be around pretty much for the whole month of May. The other thing going on offshore, the spring blackfin tuna bite is kicked into high gear in Palm Beach County and also in southern Martin County. It seems like the best action is early in the morning or late in the afternoon. In Palm Beach County, you can find those fish around the Bonita schools in anywhere from 150 to 300 feet of water. In southern Martin County, it seems like the majority of the fish are just randomly around or out on Fishbites Hill, 12 miles southeast of the St. Lucie Inlet. The single best way to target blackfin tuna in this region is by live chumming with small pilchards. And then when you see a fish show up, they'll blow up. You'll see them jumping out of the water. Put out a larger pilchard on 30-pound fluorocarbon leader and just get it away from the boat, and you'll be able to get that bite. You can also troll with a pink or silver feather or a very small ballyhoo. The thing you want to do is watch for diving birds or fish that are jumping out of the water or popping up on the surface. That's where those tuna will be. Average blackfin tuna in my region is going to be 10 to 20 pounds, but fish to 30 pounds are being caught. I got a photo. That's one of the fish that came off Fishbites Hill, Adam Goddard. Got that blackfin at 240 feet of water. That fish ate a trolled green feather in Fishbites Hill.
Nice. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about the bass this week. What you got, bub?
Well, you know, it's still a 20 to 30 fish morning on Lake Okeechobee right now. The water level is just a little over 11 feet, and that's moving the bass out of the marsh and to the outside grass lines. Really, those first grass lines are moving to a little deeper water in like 1 to 2 feet of water. They're chasing shad and bluegills right at first light. It's a dawn bite. Schoolie fish are just blasting bait up until about 8 a.m. in places like Observation Shoal and Third Point and around Horse Island. And you want to fish that stuff fast. You're not going to have a real long bite. So, topwater plug, a white spinner bait, or an alewife, or white-colored or pearl-colored Bass Assassin 5-inch vapor shad. That'll get you your 10 to 20 fish before the heat slows that bite down. Then it's time to move to the isolated bulrush clumps in those areas where you typically find the spawning bluegills. And then you just want to throw bluegill colors. You can throw black with chartreuse tail 8-inch worm, rigged Texas style, or work the potholes in the grass with a dye dapper or an elite shiner in those bluegill colors. And then, live shiner is going to keep that bite going late into the morning. But you have to move around a lot to find the fish with the shiners right now. But it's a 30 to 40 fish morning on Okeechobee, and you're off by 11 o'clock.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. Great report from the Fishbites East region. It's time to take a look at the TNH Marine hotspots. He says inshore, spotted sea trout on the flats off of Bear Point, topwater plugs, drunk monkey colored saltwater assassin shads, or a shrimp under a rattling cork. And then offshore, the blackfin tunas around the Bonita schools in 200 feet of water off of Palm Beach. Live chum with pilchards or slow troll, a Spanish sardine.
Okay, well, Mike kind of already mentioned it, but we're talking tarpon today, and we know catching one is a big deal. And catching tarpon can also mean you win big in the CCA start competition. Size does not matter, but you must catch. Take a photo and release with care for $10,000 in prizes from Minn Kota, Humminbird, and TH Marine. Star begins July 1st, so head over to ccaflstar.org for more information and to get registered. Sounds good to me. That was a pretty picture. All right, we're keeping this tarpon train rolling, and coming up next are your captains from the Bells Central East and Discover Crystal River Northwest regions. We'll be right back only on the Florida
Insider
Fishing
Report.
Yes, what a team.
There is the pool.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. Garmin, join the club. Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealership, serving Southeast and Southwest Florida and Florida's Space and Treasure Coasts. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Real Legends Performance Clothing. Everything you need to be comfortable on the water all day long. Keeps you cool, dry, and protected from the sun. Durable performance technology at an unbeatable value. Shop anytime or go to reallegends.com to find a Bell store near you.
Every year, Noble Air Charter flies over 20,000 outdoorsmen and families just like you economically to over 300 Bahamian and Florida destinations. Noble Air Charter makes a substantial investment improving booking and aircraft route planning to create the most affordable and economical flight possible. And tomorrow, Noble Air's team will rise to the challenge to raise the bar yet again.
Navigating at night can be dangerous, even for the most experienced drivers. With over 400,000 pixels, Night Track makes it possible to navigate in the dark with confidence. Night Track seamlessly interfaces with all multifunction displays, 2013 or newer, and offers boaters or the outdoorsman peace of mind at an affordable price. For more information, call 251-605-9100.
Welcome back, Floridians. Now we're checking in with Captain Jim Ross in the Bells Central East region. Tell us what we're catching this Mother's Day weekend, Jim.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to be catching a lot of different things this weekend, but tarpon may not be one of them. We had a great run early in the spring, but they've kind of slowed down just a little bit. But as far as tarpon go, they are basically one of the toughest and most elusive fish that anglers can target here in the central east part of the state, Brie. Now, we usually target our tarpon along the nearshore waters, with the adult tarpon at least, and they generally show up around the Vero Cove, and then start working their way up through Sebastian, and then eventually on through the Canaveral area and all the way up to Bethune Beach, so the guys out of Ponce can chase them as well. Now, our favorite way to catch them is by drifting or slow trolling with live baits: pogies, mullet, sardines, pilchards. Those different kinds of herring-style baits typically are more productive than other styles of baits. But you can also catch them on soft plastics, big swim baits like the ones Assassin makes, harder suspending plugs. Any of those 5 to 6 inch type suspending plugs work really well on tarpon, especially when you find them in large schools just outside the surf break, because they seem to be more aggressive at that time. Now, my particular favorite rig to use is a 30-pound main line on a conventional reel, and I use a 2-stage leader. I use about a 5-foot section of 40 to 50-pound line that comes off of the 30, and I like to use fluorocarbon because it's a little less visible. And then I use about a 2-foot piece of 60 to 80-pound fluorocarbon, and then I put a 7/0 to 8/0 size circle hook on that. And that's the way we typically catch our beach tarpon, and those fish run anywhere from about 60 to about 100 pounds. I've got a picture here of myself and my son, Captain Justin, with a tarpon that we recently caught there off Cocoa Beach.
Nice.
I've also got another picture, and Rick, I know you can appreciate fishing with your son. It's a fun thing to be able to do.
Okay.
But I've got another picture here of the Okuma Saltera SLX10 reel, and this is the SLX10L. It actually has a level wind on it. These are the reels that I like to use because they have a lever drag, they have a high enough gear ratio for tarpon, and they're durable enough that I have not been able to tear them up yet, which is saying something for me. And so I really, really highly recommend this Okuma Saltera reel for you guys and gals if you're looking for a reel that you're specifically going to target tarpon with. Now, our other species offshore is dolphin. And the dolphin have been hit or miss. We've been having some very, very good days. We've been having some slow days. And the reason is there's been a little bit of dirty water kind of swirling around in the area, especially this past week from the Canaveral area up through Ponce. In fact, some of the divers were saying they were having blackout conditions in some places. But if you find the edges of those waters where the water gets green to blue again, that seems to be where the fish are best, the dolphin anyway. 220 to about 600 feet of water seems to be the best depth to be in right now, and skirted ballyhoo is one of the best baits that you can use. Obviously, you're doing that as a search type bait to troll around until you find something that you can use a pitch bait, like a pilchard or a pogie or something like that, that for fish that are holding on weeds or floating debris or some kind of other flotsam. Now, our average dolphin is running about 8 to 15 pounds right now. Now, swinging inshore, our trout species, we've got 3 different trout species that we're still catching: silver, weakfish, and speckled trout. The weakfish in particular are off the beaches, but our speckled trout is the one that I'm going to concentrate on right now, because the high pressure that we've recently had this past weekend, and in conjunction with the full moon, really stopped the bite. I mean, absolutely shut them down in some cases. But once the wind switched around to the southeasterly direction, and we got just past the full moon, fish later in the day, and you're going to see those fish turn on. Now, suspending plugs, saltwater Sasson 4-inch sea shads are absolute dynamite, especially the purple moon or northern minnow colors right now. And, if you're looking for larger trout, bigger than about 20 to 22 inches, definitely target them with some kind of live bait like a pilchard, a finger mullet, or a mahara. And most of the bigger fish are holding in about 2 to 3 feet of water right now, and the smaller fish are holding in about 3 to 5 feet of water. And then my last species of this week is snook, and they have been pretty good. And if you want something that pulls really hard and tastes really good, snook are it. Now, we've only got a couple of weeks left before the summer closure, so you guys and gals want to hit the inlets right now. That's the best place to find these fish. And live baits like croaker, pinfish, mahara, those are working best on those daytime fish. Now, at nighttime, flare hawk jigs like the one that R&R makes or a 5 to 6 inch assassin shad tail rigged on a 3/4 to 1.5 ounce jig head is getting these. That's what's getting these fish to strike at night. Now our average fish is running about 30 to 40 inches, so you're getting some big fish right now. A lot of them are overslots, so just be careful with them. Handle them with care. And I've got a picture here of a recent charter that I had out with Dennis and Brenda that live up in Mims, and a couple of the snook that we caught together. I think those were 2 of 7 or 8 that we had on a trip the other day.
All right, thank you so much, Jimmy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan hotspots from the Central East region. He says, inshore, look at the Sebastian Inlet. For the snook, use live croakers, pilchards, pinfish, mahoras near the jetty rocks. And then offshore, yellowfins between 60 and 95 miles offshore. Troll high-speed lures near the flocks of birds feeding over the tuna schools, Brie.
All right, let's jump and bow to the other side of the state and talk with the Tarpon King, Captain Jeff Hageman from the Discover Crystal River Northwest region. 'Tis the season, Hag. Talk to us.
Oh, the Silver King, one of my favorites to chase, and pretty much spend 3 months out of the year strictly fishing for them. You couldn't ask for a better game fish with their gill-ratting head shakes and their unreal jumps and long drag-searing runs. They're an unbelievable fish to catch. And you can catch them throughout my region. The small juvenile fish can be caught throughout the entire region, and the smaller ones usually get up in residential canals and springs. But the major migrations in the summer months right now, and the best time to target them, the big fish are going to be at bridges, passes, on the beach, on the grass flats. April through August is our best season for them, and you can catch them on spinning gear, fly, flood gear. As far as live baits go, crabs, thread fins are some of the favorites as far as that goes. As far as flies go, lemon drops, cockroach, purple and black are also favorite baits. You can also catch them on our officials like DOA Bait Busters, Saltwater Assassin. The flapper jig works really good, and our fish run anywhere from 70 to 130 pounds is about our average right now, and can catch the fish up to 200 pounds. Push poles and trolling motors are a necessity when tarpon fishing. They can be very weary, so you want to make sure you make a nice quiet approach, and either, if you don't have a trolling motor or a push pole, anchor up, get ahead of the fish, set up in a line. They're usually going to stay in a line on the beach. You can anchor up ahead of them as fish are moving north or south, and put some baits out and intercept them that way. Another thing I hear a bunch, and people have these long epic battles of over an hour on fish. Heavy spinning gear is a must. You want to try and get that boat and whip them really quick and get them to the boat as fast as you can, get your picture, make a nice release to take care of them for other people that are going to be fishing for them too. So take time. Those fish got that way and got old, so take your time with them and release them well before you drop them in the water. Moving inshore, Captain Bobby Bramley of Steinhatchery reports a great bite right now. The water's gin clear right now over there, and the temperature's right. He's seeing schools of fish moving through his area, and he's throwing suspension lures in a flashy silver, and he's moving it really quick, and then a decent pause, and that's usually when they're biting it, and that's working best. Moving up to the upper part of my region, Captain John Lane with Captain JB Charters at Apalachicola alerts his redfish right now are hanging around the salt marshes. Fish are running right now anywhere from 16 to 26 inches and are mainly hanging around the marsh points and drop-offs. The bite has been best right now on the falling tide. Moving all the way down south to the end of my region, Captain Jimmy Huddleston of CaptainHud.com out of Ozona reports the redfish bite has been really good right now. Gin clear water also, and mostly easterly winds. The bite has been more productive on lower water, fishing the sandy potholes laying just off the edge of the grass flats. Palm-sized tail hook pinfish have been the best baits for these redfish. Moving offshore, Captain Billy Nobles out of St. Pete reports a good blackfin tuna bite right now, and it's going strong over the hard bottoms and wrecks in 70 to 125 feet of water. Butterfly jigs have been producing most best results. Keep an eye out for birds and bait at these depths, and fish have been bouncing around really quick. So a live well full of fresh sardines, once you find them, we'll keep them right behind the back of the boat. I got a photo here of a nice doubleheader by Captain Billy Nobles, of a blackfin tuna and a cobia.
Nice. All right, speaking of cobias, what else you got?
Speaking of cobias, I've got a great picture from CCA's own Brian Gorski and KK with a monster cobia. You know, look at that one.
That's a
Captain K.
I
Slider.
saw that. That's
Fishing out of the
insane.
plantation in on Christopher River.
87-pounder, dude.
That's crazy.
Yep, on a IGFA scale, so that's a good fish.
Ooh.
And I really like to thank the CCA guys and gals for doing a great job protecting our fish and our fisheries.
All right, Bub, thank you so much. It's time to check the Alta equipment hotspots from the Northwest region. He says inshore, snook showing up on the beaches and passes. Use sardines for bait. Try a 4.0 Trocar circle hook with a diamond presentation 40-pound leader. That'll get the job done. And then offshore, groupers over the rock piles and ledges, 55 to 80 feet of water, using pinfish for bait. Try a knocker rig with a laser sharp 7.0 circle hook. How
Yeah,
about
you know,
that?
I saw that picture on the social networks.
Yes.
My jaw was on the floor.
That's
Go
KK,
Brian.
man. No, he called KK. He's the big fish dude, man.
Yeah, but Brian Gorski.
Yeah, he was with KK. Watch
I know.
KK breathe
I'm
it
just
in and catch it.
saying.
Dadgum KK catches the monsters everywhere he goes.
I want to
Big,
go with
small
KK.
leads. Yes,
All
you
right,
do.
We're
Yes,
headed
you
to
do.
the Keys region next, but first let's see what new products Dave has for us at the CCA Workbench. Dave?
I want to go with KK.
Well, you know,
Everybody
catch
does.
monsters.
Look at that thing. Isn't that nice? Everything's better with the little fish bites on it.
Everything's a little better. Tastes a little better. We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Ameritrail. Load. Launch. Relax. Real Legends. Exclusively at Bell's. Okuma. Inspired Fishing. Discover Crystal River, Florida. And Maverick Boat Group. Makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
You sons of fishes. Ain't enough fish on this lake for 2 clubs.
Really? Well, we see plenty of fish live with Panoptics.
Yep. Dang, we should get Panoptics. Or maybe we'll just take yours.
What's going on here? You boys have license?
Yes, sir.
Nope.
There he is. Oh, I got him.
Deep within Key Largo, you'll see things that may surprise you. From the unspoiled wilderness of the Florida Everglades to the tranquility of John Pennekamp State Park, look below the surface and you'll find more depth in Key Largo in the Florida Keys.
Well, we're here at the CCA Workbench, and we always talk about new products, and tonight is no exception. So, Dave, where are we going to start?
Well, we're going to start with a cool little dredge there. You know, dredge fishing is all the rage now, and you know, when you got a small boat, handling a great big dredge can be a pain. And this is even the little ones. Even little ones are a pain. But still, this is a bucket dredge, and what that means is that the whole thing will fit in a little bucket. Either, you know, that's I think a 3.5 gallon bucket or a 5 gallon bucket. But the whole thing will fit in there. It comes with a 4-pound dredge weight. It comes with 2 versions. One with a 21-inch, 9-inch squid, which was that one right there. And they also have a 35 version with 35 little smaller squids on it. It's got 2 10-inch bars in there, and you know that thing it's perfect for a little center console boat, or you know if you want to run it off an outrigger. It's not that heavy. You know, you can do a lot of different things with it, and the storage of it is just amazing. It all fits in a bucket, which is, you know, perfect. A lot of times when you're getting ready to put one of those things out, they scare the crap out of you. You're afraid you're going to jump in that thing. Yeah. But they come in like 5 different colors. You know, they got green, red, blue, pink, fluorescent. Fishrazor.com. They've been getting a lot of play here lately. Yeah. Mike's Bait House, right there with the little grouper jigs there. Get the one with the. There's some fish bites on it. These are called Naples Best Custom Jigs, and they come from Mike's Bait House in Naples. Mike Avanon had these in here last week for the grouper show, and we didn't have time. We ran out of time, but now we got them. Anyway, they come from 3/8 ounce all the way up to 6 ounce. You know, you get really high quality feathers, and they all have a nice little bit of mylar in them for some extra flash.
I like them.
Really nicely painted. Got nice big eyeballs on there for you if you like them. Exactly. They're going to be strong, and even after they get tore up, they'll still catch fish. And you know, big, nice, strong hooks, so you're not going to be pulling your hooks on the big lockdown drag trying to catch groupers. I
love tipping or putting a trailer on a bucktail.
Exactly. Mike'sBaitHouse.com if you want to check those out.
I liked it. Good choice on the color fish bites. I like it, Dave.
Yeah, very nice. Next, we got some Sea Striker rod stakes. I took a bunch of folks off trying to catch some pompano the other day, and I went into the store just to buy something like this. You know, this is a regular Sea Striker stake, and I saw the Sea Pal, which is a new one there. Surf Pal. I'm sorry. Surf Pal.
I like Sea Pal better.
Yeah, well, there you go. 36-inch spike. Nice aluminum. It goes right into the sand. Just give it a little wiggle and it goes right in. And it's got this really cool tray on the top, so you can put a couple of weights in here, your sand fleas. It's got a little slit here for your knife. You can put a beer on the tray if you want to sit there on the beach, if they let you have a beer on the beach. But I thought that thing was awesome, and I used it a lot because I had 4 or 5 guys with rods spread out, and I tell you, I appreciated that one because I didn't have to keep running back and forth to the tackle box for that rod. It was the only one. So anyway, I got them at Academy. So you go seastriker.com and get you one of those as well. Last but not least, this is the big Kahuna portable shower. On that same trip that I took those boys out, you know, I use this thing. I always use this thing because it's great. It's a portable shower. It goes in the back of your truck. It's got a tiny little pump in there that's extremely powerful. It's a German pump. I don't even know how the thing works. It's so small, but it really puts out a lot of power. And
plugs into your cigarette lighter.
Yeah, it's got a really long cord, so you can put it on the back of your truck and it'll run the cord all the way to the front, and you can wash all the sand off your feet and stuff before you get in the car. It's great for if you have a construction business or anytime, you know, you want to just have a nice freshwater cold shower. And you can also they sell a little heating element that you can put in the top. Nice. And if you got a place where you can plug it in, you can make a hot shower if you want to.
Wow.
So anyway, bigkahunashowers.com and you can go check those out. And really, I love this thing. Every time I go wading or to the beach, it saves my life and my car.
All right, well, my Surf Pal is waiting to take us to another region, so.
Damn, and you know what? That would be a great Mother's Day gift. At least
yes, it would.
I would like to get that with
you
the
would
kids
love to
at
have
the
one.
beach or just.
It's
I
awesome.
can give this to you right
Isn't
now.
it
I'll just
Dave's?
take Dave and
Dave's.
just give it to you.
I can't take it from Dave.
He doesn't have Mother's Day. You do.
That's true.
That's
true. All right, catching a tarpon on fly is a bucket list item I'm always hearing from anglers. So why don't we head into the Keys region to see if Captain Randy Tao can make that dream a reality? Tell us, Randy.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, here in the Garmin Keys region right now, it is tarpon time, and they are, they're on the bay side, they're on the ocean side, they're on the bridges. They're pretty much all over the place, depending on the style of your fishing. And I say that because there's a lot of ways to catch tarpon this time of year. Not everybody fishes bait. If you're a fly fisherman, you're really enjoying some of the ocean fishing right now with these fish migrating down the coast. and there's some nice big strings, and there's quite a few fish moving. Now you want to pay attention to your tide, because it seems like a lot of these fish are going to move when the water's moving, and even though you don't think there's much of a tide moving on the ocean side, when you're sitting there, there is a lot of water moving, and especially around the bridges, but that's what's sucking these fish in and pushing them out. So the fly guys are getting a lot of opportunities at these tarpon going by, and I can tell you, if you're a fly guy, don't expect to get a bite every cast. When they finally do bite it, there's no rhyme or reason, because you made 30 perfect casts before, and the 31st he bites. So don't give up. Keep going. Eventually, you're going to get a bite out of one of these things. That's just how it works. Now, if you're a bait guy, still, the live mullet is working really well, and also the crabs. I've kind of heard about as much being caught on crabs as there are mullet, but, that's a whole nother deal. If you're going to bait fish around the bridges, you really want to get dialed into whatever your style is. If it's crabbing, you want to drift with it, because you can't really anchor up with crabs or they'll spin. And the mullet, you can kind of get away with being anchored. So there's some tricks to it to get them to bite, and they are around. Guys are catching them. So don't get frustrated if you're not getting bites. Just try something. Just instead of anchoring, drift. Or if you're drifting, try to anchor, and you're going to find out that something's going to work for you. And, guys like Captain Donnie Bentbow, I got a picture of him with a tarpon. He's with Skins and Fins Charters here in Islamorada. Young guy, he spends his time pre-fishing and just being on the water, and I got to give him credit, because he's been putting a lot of time in, really understanding the tarpon this year. He's doing a great job. He's been on them, and I'd love to see young guys paying their dues.
You're absolutely right, Randy. Tell us about the snook fishing.
The snook in the backcountry has been good, and I say that because if you go to one spot and they're not there, you think, oh, there's no snook, but it has been good. And it's nice when the guys are tarpon fishing. It kind of takes the pressure off. That's what I've always liked about going snook fishing in tarpon season is, there's not as many people back there. But the one thing I'm finding for sure is the tide. Look at your Garmin. If you have a Garmin GPS on your boat, go to info and you'll click on the tide chart. Tide chart can be for any place you're going to be fishing, especially Flamingo or the West Coast, and pull it up and look at the graph. They show you a graph that is elevated from low tide to high tide. If you see that drop and that rise very moderate, you don't have much of a tide. That means they're very weak. If you see a spike in that, it might be in the afternoon instead of the morning. That little tip right there can make a big difference on catching the snook right now, and especially we're on a full moon, so those tides are pretty strong. But that little tip on the Garmin is really helpful when you can plan where you're going to go and how you're going to fish. And the other day, I got lucky enough to fish with Captain Billy Knowles. I've got a photo of him and I. We spent the day on the water, and it was nice to find some snook for us to catch, but we really wanted one to eat, and they were all too big.
Well, that's a high-class problem with a high-class guy. Good to see Billy out fishing. So what else you got for us offshore?
The black grouper opened last Sunday. A lot of guys got on them. There were a lot of groupers caught. I've seen tons of pictures, and they definitely got a workout. And it's always nice to see when that season opens that people take the time and they kind of dedicate the day to do that. And live grunts, live pinfish have been a great bait. Even a Speedo, a live Speedo is one of the best baits for a black grouper especially. Most of the grouper we catch around here are blacks. We do catch a few reds, and it's that way from Key Largo to Key West, and certainly as you get to Key West, that's the honey hole from there to the west toward the Tortugas. Some of the absolute best bottom fishing and grouper fishing we have. I've got a photo of Captain Andrew Hall. He's with Snapshot Charters out of Hawks Cay with this nice grouper they caught on opening day.
Very nice.
All right, quickly on the yellowtails, Bub. You're out of time.
All right. Well, the yellowtail fishing is what I did on Sunday because everybody went grouper fishing. I took my grandson and the family, and we got into them really good. This is my grandson, Caden, with his yellowtails he caught on Sunday.
Oh, that's
a
great
cute
picture. All right, well, thank you so much. Sorry we got to go, but we're out of time. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Sunset Inn hotspots from the Florida Keys region. Tarpon, look around the Upper Keys bridges early and late in the day. Fish the oceanside flats with your fly rod in the afternoon on the outgoing tide. And then offshore, yellowtail, anchoring 60 to 80 feet of water. Get your chum going and be very patient. There's plenty of fish right now up and down the reef line, Brie.
Randy's a good grandpa.
Yeah.
All right, we're casting to your Bells Southwest and Albee Real Northeast regions next, so stay hooked. But before we go, we want to remind you to keep up with everything fishing in Florida. Make sure to visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow and tag us in your Fishtastic photos on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Albee Reels, a better way to fish. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing, book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to Fishbites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fishbites or Fishbites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Come explore untouched Florida, where you'll step into holy sea cow and fish pristine waters where you'll reel in, whoa! Come discover Crystal River with exciting adventures and incredible surprises everywhere. From exhilarating river adventures to scalloping in the Gulf to delicious fish to fork cuisine, this is the place where you can relax into Just a short drive from Tampa and Orlando is the amazing Discover Crystal River, Florida. Learn more at discovercrystalriverfl.com.
Welcome back. Your captain from the Bells Southwest region has a detailed step-by-step report to guide you into your tarpon location, cast, hookup, and land. So Ronnie, let's hear it.
Well, like always, it's always a pleasure being here. I'm going to give you a little info what leads up to the what's going on right now. So as early as February, these fish will start to migrate from south to north, passing through from Highland Beach into the Everglades, and then eventually making their way to the 10,000 Islands. Then they continue moving north up into Marco. Then they'll guide themselves all along the beach up to Fort Myers and eventually land up into Sanibel and Stump Pass. And most of them really are going to be on the outer beaches and passes, anywhere from the beach line out to 20 feet of water. And to the north, it's really going on right now, according to Captain Danny Latham and Corey McGuire. They're both telling me this has probably been the best early migration they've seen in years. And like I say, it's going off. You also have to understand and look at the current conditions we're having this year. We're having a mild winter, super clean water, not too many cold fronts this year, which could be the reason why things are so good, and we haven't had a lot of pressure on the water. Now, baits of choice at the moment under these conditions are live crabs, free-lined or under a cork, as well as pinfish, threadfins, ladyfish, and a variety of swim baits like the 5-inch Bass Assassin Dive Dapper, and in this clear water, that smoking shad is really good color, 4 to 6-inch lip plugs, flies, and with the conditions we're also having, we've had all year with the clean water, these fish can also be sight casted. Now the key for that is getting ahead of the fish, letting them come to you, or simply staking off or power pulling down in the areas that the fish keep coming in or coming through like a highway. And obviously if we get a good blow on the outer Gulf, these fish will usually disappear for a couple days, but then generally return once conditions improve. And it's really going up to the north. Don't think there's no fish to the south. I was talking to Captain Ken Chambers before I came on the air tonight. He's seeing groups of hundreds of fish down to the south. So don't think the fish aren't on the beach or back down to the south and only up to the north. And I got a couple good pictures of Captain Danny Latham and Captain Corey McGuire right now with a couple nice tarpon releases. So right now the tarpon bite's been pretty good. Now still on the inshore side, the snooks. Captain Danny Latham reports that the Matlacha area and Bull Bay area are holding some great fish right now. But they can be tough to catch on the lower stages of the tide due to the clean water and the fish feel your presence. So he says, look for good current flow along the deeper shorelines and at the higher stages of the tide. And what he's simply doing, trying to find these fish in those areas, he's chumming live pilchards. I've also been fishing to the south, anywhere from Coon Key to Rabbit Key. You know, the fish are really starting to make a good appearance on the outer Gulf Islands on the higher stages of the tide. Now, the water is also very clean, so I've been using a lot of walk-the-dog lures and bright colors, but I've been making long casts, and I'm really impressed with that 20-pound diving braid that I've been using for the last couple of months, staying way off these fish not to spook them. So once I get hit by a fish, I simply power pull down, fan cast the areas, and they have been spooled up. Or you can use live pilchards, chums, as well as cut ladyfish and mullet on knocker rigs once you locate the fish. And I got a couple nice pictures here of a nice oversized snook, wild caught with Danny Latham up to the north, and a backcountry fish at the close of the season just past May while I fished the pattern in the backcountry. So snook fishing and tarpon fishing has been good all through the region. Now on the offshore side, the permit bite. That bite, according to Captain Corey McGuire, still remains to be strong throughout the region, especially from Marco to Redfish Pass, fishing wrecks and artificial reefs by simply anchoring up on the outskirts of the structure or making several drifts across it. Wrecks as close as 6 miles and out to 30 miles, or you can just simply run a number of wrecks, spending a little time at each one of them. And the key baits for that bite right now have been the live crabs. And I got a picture of a couple nice permit caught while fishing with Captain Corey McGuire up to the north end of the region. Now the last species we're going to have is going to be the red groupers. According to Captain Mike Avedon, as long as you got some matter or wherever, the bite's still strong. As long as, like I said, we have moderate weather from Market to Fort Myers Beach, he's telling me the depths right now are 90 to 120 feet of water fishing hard bottom. Now, even though he's got several spots marked, he's telling me you can drift hard bottom to locate these fish with bucktails and squid. Once you hook up, you can come back around and anchor up, or watch your bottom finder with the same pattern, but maybe making a drift along a mark, catch some decent fish, move on, work the same pattern or anchor up. And he's simply telling me cut baits include sardines, herring and squid. And a couple key things before I sign off. We got a good rainmaker that's going to be coming here hopefully late Saturday or Sunday. Keep an eye on the weather. And another thing is, for the past couple weeks, we've had a lot of pressure all through the region with a lot of boats coming from different areas all on the water. One of the key things I've noticed is there's a lot of shoreline all through the region that's fish. The only way you're going to become a better fisherman is put down the trolling motor, work some of them shorelines. Guess what? Might find you some fish and not have to worry about fishing in areas where boats are pressuring these fish.
All right, thank you, Ronnie. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Caddy Can hotspots from the southwest region. Ron says that redfish, Chatham River to Lossman's River, fishing the outer Gulf Islands on the higher stages of the tide using pilchards and cut bait. And then offshore, kingfish, Fort Myers Beach to Stump Pass, fishing wrecks, hard bottom, and bait pods 6 to 30 miles out using silver spoons, blue runners, herrings, and pilchards with a trace of wire.
All right, Rick, let's get FaceTime back up and see what Captain Tommy D is excited about in the Alvey Reels Northeast region. You excited, Tommy?
I am. You know what, Brie? I get obsessed about chasing tarpon coming up on this time of the year here in the Alvey Sidecast Reels Northeast region. You know, I've seen a few fish, some of the bigger ones rolling in the ICW and along the beach. I've heard of some in the bait pods, but really, you know, it's a little bit early in the year. The water needs to just warm up just a little bit more for our bigger migrating fish to show up in better numbers. Now, we have a great tarpon fishery here all summer long and even into the early fall months. We get some really big migrating fish right along the beach, feeding on pogies during the summer, and then the mullet during the early fall. One of my favorite ways to catch tarpon here is to fish behind the shrimp boats. You know, when the shrimpers dump their bycatch, you're going to find tarpon behind those shrimp boats. Sometimes they're in a feeding frenzy. And you know, it's one of the few ways that you can really sight fish tarpon in my region. Now, you can also fish for tarpon around those pogie pods along the beach. And no matter how you do it, I like to use a 7/0 to 10/0 Eagle Claw circle hook, depending on your bait size. And then I just free line or float a live pogie around those bait pods. Now you can also fish a bait under those pogie pods. And you know what? Sometimes that's where you're gonna get the most bites. I spoke to Dave up at Strike Zone. You know what? He told me they carry a rig. It's called the No Brainer rig, which that's probably what I should be using, which is basically a circle hook with some lead welded to it. Now, Dave says it's really been really effective for a lot of guys fishing under those pogie pods. Now, those beach tarpon, they average about 60 to 100 pounds, but we see quite a few fish in that 150 pound class. There's some really big fish around. We also have a good population of smaller tarpon in the canals and some of the bigger, longer creeks throughout the region as well. Now, right now, there's quite a few 10 to 30 pound tarpon in the canals and the creeks from Tomoka up through Palm Coast. A big live shrimp, a mud minnow, or a little finger mullet under a float or just free lined on a small hook, it's gonna work well for those smaller tarpon. And speaking of smaller tarpon, I've got a photo. I got the rare chance to get out and fish with just my wife this past week. Something we used to do a lot before kids and careers and everything. And we got into some nice little tarpoons in the back of some of those Palm Coast canals. And here's one my wife Lena caught.
All right, good job. Snooking, let's go.
Hey, with the weather warming up again this week, the snook bite has been going off in the south end of the region. But there's also been some nice snook catches in the north end as well. I spoke to my buddy Eddie Kebler. He tells me he's been catching some nice snook up in Jacksonville, and he's just fishing some brackish creeks, and he's also got some secret little springs that he fishes up there. But there's some good snook around. Now, he's also been catching them on suspending mirror lures. Now, down south in Palm Coast, Captain Chris Herrera from PalmCoastFishing.com, he tells me he's been fishing at night along the dock and the bridge lights, and he's finding some good snook around those lights. Now, he's free lining either a finger mullet or a really big live shrimp for those snook. Now, moving offshore, guys, since the season opened last weekend, I thought I'd give a quick recap of the week in grouper. I spoke to Captain Jimmy Laidler from thelegendfishing.com again, and he told me that they had an epic opening weekend with a bunch of really, really big gag groupers being caught. Jimmy told me his fish were coming mostly from that 130 to 150 foot of water, and he's catching them mostly on live bait. I also spoke to Captain Gibbs from theangryseas.com. He told me that they went out and dove a few of those big wrecks in about 130 foot, and he said they saw a ton of grouper hanging out there as well. The water's still a little chilly, and those grouper are still loaded up, so if you get a chance, I would definitely get out there and try to catch one. And I've got another photo here. This is Erica Creeder with a huge gag grouper that she caught east of St. Augustine. That's a big old black belly right there, guys.
Quickly on the cobias, bub.
Yeah, the cobia finally decided to show up in better numbers this past week. The manta rays, they seem to be moving a little north every day, with most of those rays and cobia coming from Ponte Vedra up to Fernandina Beach. The cobia have been hanging on the rays as usual, but there's also been some in the pogie pods. Now, the bait pods are a little scattered, but if you come across one, I would definitely stop and take a look. Now, the cobia, they're eating the typical jigs and bucktails, but this late in the season, it's probably a good bet to bring some live bait. They've been beat up a little bit as they've been heading north. If the weather is good, it's definitely worth a look out there for the cobia. And I got one last photo here, guys. This is my good buddy Jason Yance with a nice cobia that he sight fished off the back of a manta ray using an R&R tackle flare hawk bucktail. And I'm sure you know this, Rick, those bucktails, those R&R tackle bucktails, cobia like to eat those things, man.
Yeah, they do.
Obviously.
Tied up by a guy who really knows how to catch a cobia too, Ray Rocher. All right, bud, thank you so much. We're going to take a look at the Strike Zone Northeast region hotspots. Tommy says that inshore, we're going to check inshore snook and small tarpon from Ormond Beach to Palm Coast on the dock lights at night and early in the morning in the canals, and then offshore, a good mixed bag of groupers, muttons, and mangoes, snappers on the reefs, and wrecks in 130 to 150 feet of water. Brie?
All right, stay hooked for a little longer because we're headed to the Garmin Panhandle region next. We'll be right back.
A little more.
Gone fishing.
Come on.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Fish for the world. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. And Bells. Everything you need to live life local.
live on an island, surrounded by warm, clear water, and a million ways to enjoy it. It's amazing you'll ever have time to come up for air. Key West. Close to perfect, far from normal.
Some work can't stop because our communities need you, which is why we're working to keep you working, to help you keep homes and properties maintained, your farm running, and construction moving. Your work is essential, and we're here to help. Together, we will get through this. Take advantage of 0% financing on Kubota equipment. No payments for 90 days. Offer expires May 31st.
Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealer.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
Today's Power Pole tip, we're talking about the Power Pole spikes. The Power Pole spikes come in two models. Ultralight, like I'm holding here, which is perfect for kayaks, canoes, paddleboards. The hollow core technology keeps this spike extra light and easy to use in those smaller vessels. The HD model, which stands for heavy duty, of course, is great for your technical poling skiffs, but it's also good for all your beach-going, sandbar-going, pontoon boats, party boats, and even up to big contenders. I go by sandbars from Sarasota to Key West, and I'll see boats using 2 or 3 of them. The neat thing about that is you're avoiding any use of anchors, ropes, or chains, and it's holding your boat tight and secure. And also, they can be paired up with Micro, Power Pole Micro, and if you purchase the Power Pole Micro along with a spike, HD or ultralight, your Power Pole is going to stroke you a check for $100. And that's today's Power Pole tip.
All right, the Garmin Panhandle region is now up, and Captain Pat Deneen sure has a lot to say about our weekend ahead. Go for it, Pat.
Hey, Brie, if you're not last, you're first. But I'll tell you what, hands down, my favorite species to fish for inshore is tarpon. And we have some very good tarpon fishing here in the Panhandle from late May pretty much through early August. It, in my opinion, rivals anywhere in the state. In the bays, juvenile tarpon can be caught in the backwaters pretty much year-round, but the bigger tarpon can be targeted late summer, that early June through late July time frame. Hands down, it's really good as those migrating tarpon travel through our area east to west. Look for the fish traveling along that second sandbar. Don't chase the fish, anchor up, drift, or stay ahead of them with your troller. Best baits I've found are live herrings, pilchards, cigar minnows. Use a fluorocarbon leader, 7/0 trocar hook. We got really clear water, so that that lighter leader is pretty important. And I really haven't had a whole lot of fish chafed off. These beach tarpon are the mature fish. They're 40 to 50 pounds. Last summer we did weigh some or measure some that went 150. And there's a photo there of a last summer, face to face with the tarpon. You want to duck your chin and save your face.
That's right.
Save
All
your
right,
face.
tell us about some redfish face.
Rick, I tell you what, it's calm weather. We've had a lot of north winds, which means really good weather right up on the beach. It's perfect for sight fishing redfish along our beaches. And the June weed hasn't showed up too strong yet. It is starting to show up, but it hasn't showed up too strong yet. But the redfish are definitely there. So trolling motor or drift right along that beach. Cast artificial lures. I like soft plastic, pearl, light colored baits, Or if you want the slam dunk, go with the cigar minnow on a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. The beach reds are mostly running 29 to 40 inches, and they've been really strong this past week or so. Moving offshore, the amberjacks have opened up, and they're going to be open the rest of this month. The state water wrecks aren't really holding a whole lot of fish right now, but most of those deeper wrecks are. So go deeper, be prepared, have a live well full of hardtails or a butterfly jig. Remember that the minimum length of the amberjacks are 34 inches fork length. The hooked fish, once you hook a fish, keep some baits fishing. It's going to be awesome. There's a photo there from this trip this last weekend. Tony Lewis happily hoisting a nice amberjack he bested as we returned from an offshore trip. And I tell you what, look at the face on that Australian.
That's a good face.
All right, dude. Tell me quickly about the Vermilion snappers, bub.
Quickly, Rick. Once you're out there, dude, there's not a whole lot. You're either going to keep and catch vermilions or triggerfish. The vermilions are out there. They're also known as mingo snappers or beeliners. They make excellent table fare. You're going to find them on natural and artificial structure in 100 to 200 feet of water. Use a 2-hook chicken rig baited with cut bait, or use a light leader Carolina rig baited with live shrimp or a small white bait. Mingos, they're usually running 12 to 15 inches, but occasionally you're going to find them up to about 3 to 4 pounds. And I'll tell you what, Rick, those are probably one of my favorite snapper baits or snapper fish for supper.
That's one of your favorites. How you like to cook them, Pat?
Man, I like to broil them.
Okay.
Broil them straight up.
With a little lemon butter, or what you got?
Lemon, garlic, and a little bit of chachris.
And what kind of wine you gonna have with that, Pat?
Dude, I'm going with Pinot Noir.
I'll go with that Pinot Noir.
All right, I love you. Thank you so much. Thanks for bringing us the rear up, because you were last, but you're still first in my book. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region inshore. Sight fish jumbo redfish along the beaches between Fort Walton and Navarre. Throw topwater plugs early in the morning, and then switch to a bass sassy 5-inch diadapper. And then offshore, amberjacks on the big steel structure in 150 plus feet of water using live hardtails. I think he already had some of that little Pinot Noir.
Well, don't be jealous.
I
All right,
am
well,
jelly.
the
I'm so
Tarpon
jelly.
reports are in and your weekend is just beginning, but stay tuned because we're telling you what we're fishing for next week right here on the Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
Something you're going to like, Rick. We'll be back.
Yamaha is legendary for it. But it's more than a legend. It's something boaters have come to value. Why? Because it's rare. Because in this fast-paced, single-use world, few things are built to last. So when we find something that is, we hold on for dear life, to friendships, to traditions, to outboards. Because it's the lucky few who get to spend as much time on the water as they'd like. The rest of us, we look forward to those precious few days. That makes every second sacred. Every moment mean that much more. And it drives us to wring the most of every minute we get on the water, having incredible adventures, fighting the fish, making unforgettable memories. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
What started in the flats and bays has migrated offshore. GPS-guided trolling motor technology has moved to boats in the 35-plus foot class and allowed anchoring capabilities on most center consoles in any depth of water. From snook and redfish inshore to grouper and swordfish way out deep, Rodan Marine Systems has a GPS anchor to hold your vessel on location. Set it, forget it, catch more fish.
The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. Alvi Sidecast reels allow you to cast over 150 yards with up to 900 yards of capacity. Alvi's state-of-the-art drag and 22-inch retrieve rate per wine is perfect for any surf challenge. Alvi reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the Alvi also comes with a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alvius.com.
Welcome back, guys. Next week, we are talking redfish. Oh, are you so excited? Make sure you guys tune in.
Does that mean I get to do another cameo appearance over here at the Workbench, baby?
Dave, you should just stay home next week.
We might get an expert in here.
Let me save
All
the
right,
money,
happy
Jack.
Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Pay attention, men. Thank you for joining us. Make sure that you send in those pics. We'll see you next week for Redfish. Bye.